Because once the codes broke, brethren, this man has been studying prophecy for 50 years up here. Next June, it'll be 50 years. I've studied it and learned it and buried myself in it more than any man who's ever lived. I know that. I've said it, but I happen to know that, and whoever's in this position would have to be that way, and there are various reasons I've explained it. And it will happen on the last day of unleavened bread, when God sends his armies, destroys the murderers, and burns the city. It's so clear what happens. Frankly, I can show you in crystal clear fashion, this is where I wish I had more time, that Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, Peter, Paul, James, Jude, Jesus, and even John the Baptist spoke explicitly of this prophecy. I'm 100% sure. I know exactly, jot and tittle, exactly how God is going to do this. He said things in such explicit detail. I've taken it by half a dozen ministers, and none of them can see even the slightest chink in the description. I know the order of events. I know exactly what happens, when, to whom, and why. All of the how God is going to do this. You see if you believe God would let this message be wrong. Do you think God would let me or anybody in my role foul that up? There is a group of men in that generation upon whom would come all the righteous blood back to Abel and Zechariah. 3 men alive today who will probably die very soon, and will happen on the last day of unleavened bread, when God sends his armies, destroys the murderers, and burns the city. I'm fairly good at bringing graphic language, worked at it all my life, was born into a family that way. The Bible has been unlocked to me. Prophets who said things over and over and over and over again we could not decipher because we did not yet have a certain key. Carpenters, angelic carpenters, either those 4 or more, could go a long way in terms of building programs. You could think of them helping us finish this campus. Some interesting questions come up when you think about how Christ said right out of the gate, I'm going to use 4 super carpenters to do the most important building the world has ever seen. This prophecy occurs on Passover. Around this season, we have to be united by Passover or right around that area. It's so clear what happens. And it will happen on the last day of unleavened bread. Christ resurrected the subject of Jericho in an extraordinary prophecy that would be fulfilled very soon now. And it centers directly on the city of Jericho and the last day of unleavened bread. Do you think God would let me or anybody in my role foul that up? This prophecy occurs on Passover. Around this season, we have to be united by Passover or right around that area. But there's nothing that says it has to start on Passover anyway. Here's the last one. Release your assets to God. Sell all, because you're waiting for the Lord. Even if the work has no time to use, it won't change my salary, it won't build any more buildings, but it'll help you. Probably won't help us, but it'll help you, because God's looking at your heart.